Hola chicos, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Vamos a empezar con los segundos apuntes de este capítulo, lo que son car-gar-zar verbs. We are going to start with car-gar-zar verbs, which is the second grammar section of this chapter. And without further ado, here we go. So, real quick, let's take a look at these two kind of like conversations. So here is español incorrecto. Here is incorrect Spanish. If you were to say, like, for example, oye, Andrés, ¿pescaste la semana pasada? Sí, pesé. Or entonces, ¿tú llegaste al río sin problemas? Sí, llegué sin problemas. Or, ¿tú almorzaste con tu padre? Sí, almorcé con él. That is incorrect Spanish, which you see on the left in that left-hand column there. But then on the right, you see español correcto, which the responses look a little different. So, so that first question, the response is sí, pesqué. To the second question, the response is sí, llegué sin problemas. And then lastly, sí, almorcé con él. And if you take a look to compare the two, kind of conversations that you see there, the only difference is that instead of pescar ending with a CE on the left, it should end with a QUE. Instead of llegar ending with a GE, it ends with GUE on the right. And then instead of ending in a Z, it ends in a C on the right. And that kind of leads us into our first weird thing that happens with the preterite, which are car-gar-zar verbs. So remember that in the present tense, there are all sorts of weird things that happen to you. Boot verbs, O to UE boot verbs, E to IE boot verbs, I to IE boot verbs, all this weird different stuff. And the preterite doesn't take any of that into account, like none of that happens here, but it has its own weird things that happen. And this is kind of the first minor thing. So any verb that ends in car, gar, or sar is going to have a weird change that occurs. So without further ado, so as with the present tense, this past tense, your first blank is a preterite / el pretérito. We've been talking about doesn't always follow this set regular conjugation pattern. Like I just said.
Lawrence, could you please call extension 327?
Like I just said, the present tense has weird things. This past tense will also have weird things. So verbs that end in car, gar, or sar are slightly irregular. Though they have no changes at all in the tú, él y usted form, nosotros, or ellos, ellas, ustedes forms, or the vosotros form for that matter. The yo form must change slightly to avoid sounding totally dumb. So we'll take a look at that conjugation chart in a second. But as is always the case, what you would do to form these verbs, you'd drop the AR from the stem. In this case, they're not ER or IR verbs because they end in car, gar, or sar. So by definition, they must be an AR verb. So for example, pescar, you drop the AR, pesc would be your stem. Llegar, you drop the AR, lleg would be your stem. And then almorzar, you drop the AR, and almorz would be your stem. So real quick, here is the conjugation chart. Like I said earlier, the tú, the él y usted, the nosotros, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes forms have no weird changes. So those look like what you would expect them to be. Pescar es pescaste, pescó, pescamos, pescaron. Llegar es llegaste, llegó, llegamos, llegaron. And almorzar es almorzaste, almorzó, almorzamos, almorzaron. But if you look at the yo forms of all three of these verbs, they have the changes that we saw above in the paragraph. Pescar changes to pesqué with a QU. Llegar changes to llegué with a GU. And almorzar changes from a Z to a C. And you see those changes there beneath the yo forms. C to QU, G to GU, and Z to C. The reason why this happens is to maintain the same pronunciation as what happens in the infinitive. So like for example, pescar. If you were to drop the AR and put an E on, that C would become a soft C and would sound like an S. So in order to avoid sounding like pesé, the QU has to show up to keep that hard k sound, pesqué. Same with llegar. If you threw an E on the end, like if you dropped the AR and added an E the way that you would expect you might, the result would sound like llegué. The G would sound like an H. Don't want to do that. So to keep that G sound, you need to throw the U on, llegué. And then almorzar, the Z swaps out for a C. So chicos, make sure you get these notes, bring any questions that you have to class tomorrow, and we'll continue to practice with this tomorrow. Adios, have a good night.